Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to do a brief presentation on how we should take care of our artworks. We all hang artworks on our walls. They please us, we are proud of them. Owning a collection that one has inherited or built lovingly, piece by piece, the art still needs to be taken care of on a daily basis. Now, not only because of the sentiments attached to the work of art, but even as far as the investment value goes. We need to ensure the health of the artwork so that it can survive the vagaries of the environment and other risk factors such as biological attacks and human negligence. A basic preservation would involve a cleaning and protecting the work, and it means holding on to every bit of what the artist has created. And then one can decide whether we go ahead with a complete restoration if required, which then involves the addition of certain materials in the areas of the losses to make the work look just the way it did when the artist, he or she, first created it. Strengthening the work not only prolongs the life, we also make sure that it is fit for display, for storage, for transportation, and it is particularly important if the object is traveling on roads. In order to treat a work, we first have to be aware of the various problems that an artwork can suffer from. So it is vital to keenly observe every artwork every once in a while and look out for various kinds of issues. We need to look at the work and question ourselves. Is the canvas suffering from any kind of weakness? Does it have any tears? Does it have any holes? Is the paint layer cracking up? Is there any darkening or varnish? Or can you see some odd attack by a fungus? Has there been any negligence in storage, negligence in packing or transportation? If it is an artwork on paper, we need to see if the paper is yellowing over a period of time. Is it acidic? Is it brittle? And again, does it suffer from any kind of separation of its layers of paper? Or does it have any fungus? Does it have any water stains? Does it have any greasy hand marks? Sometimes an artwork has been restored, but there is a use of inferior quality, non-reversible materials. There could be an overpaint on the surface. Or there could be unethical techniques which have been used by untrained and inexperienced workers. There are other art objects which are made of metal, wood, glass, terracotta, and they would normally suffer from kind of chemical reactions or they could be broken. Just to go through a few examples of what is commonly noticed. Artworks over a period of time, they get covered with layers of dust and dirt. One doesn't realize until you actually start the cleaning process. So the first one, you see how dirty it is just collecting 30 years of dust. And the second slide shows you when it's cleaned halfway, you can see the colors for what they were. A lot of the works which are 70, 80 or over 100 years old, artists would use a protection by using a varnish on top of them. This varnish, being a natural resin varnish, would turn from transparent to light yellow to dark yellow to light brown to dark brown. Over a period of time it would age. Now this aging would not let the viewer see the colors that the artist has used originally. And by the removal of this varnish, step 1, step 2 and step 3, we get to see the colors that the artist has actually used and wanted us to see. So this is another thing that one can observe when you are seeing earlier works of art, whether the varnish layer has darkened to an extent that you can't see the original. This is an interesting example of a work that we got in Delhi, whereby an artwork was given by the owners to another artist for restoration purposes, supposedly about 40 years ago. But the artist, not being familiar with techniques of restoration, simply overpainted the entire work. This overpaint stands out like a very, very thick layer. It doesn't give you the feel of what the original oil should be like. And when we started removing it, it completely changed the image. It changed the clothes, it changed the background, it even changed the face. Often we get works which have been cut up into two pieces for better sales. This was an example of one of them, where the dealer thought that maybe he could sell them both separately, although it was a part of the same work. And so in this case, we cleaned each piece separately and then we lined it together on one canvas. And we got back the image the way it was meant to be. Sorry about that. This was a brilliant example. This was paintings that came to us. The size was 8 feet by 5 feet. And I think the entire studio had a very, very interesting time working on this. Again, you saw all kinds of problems in this work. The varnish was very, very dark. The paint layer was lifting off. The children had played games and they had poked the painting in different areas. They tried to change a light bulb and the ladder had gone into it. They would be sweeping the floor, the paint was on the floor, they swept off the carpet. And so this painting actually took us about 6 months to work on and about 8 people working on it. And we would clean it bit by bit, bit by bit. And when it was finally cleaned, I mean the colors that you see here, we have added nothing to it. This is the way the artist had painted the work. And we have then repaired just the areas of the losses. But there was a very interesting time when the princely couple who owned this painting, and it was the gentleman's great-grandparents, and they would come every once in a while to see the progress of the painting. And they did come once, and they actually had a bit of a tussle and a fight in our studio because the wife suddenly realized that in all the 30 years of her marriage, she had never seen the grandmother's jewelry anywhere in the house, which was now very obvious once this dark varnish came off. So the rest of the team disappeared into their rooms, and I was trying to sort the fight between the husband and wife, trying to figure out where all the sapphires and the diamonds and the rings were. A lot of problems in our canvases are caused by the humidity levels that we have in India, and over here it's a drier climate. But what happens is that whenever there is high humidity, the canvas expands, and then when there is low humidity, then the canvas contracts. And this goes on year after year and year after year, but the paint layer after a point is unable to expand. I mean, the paint layer anyway being in an inert material is unable to expand and contract. This is what leads to all the cracking in the various areas of the canvas. So this is something that one can look out for in your artworks, if it's cracking up or if it's expanding and shrinking all the time. A lot of times we have noticed this in our studios, that either a painting has been, again, this painting was cut on the right side and there was a child sitting on a chair, and they again sold that piece separately. But then there are also times when the canvas is when the edges are framed and nobody understands what are they supposed to do with the fold over edges, and they just keep turning more of the original of the painted canvas around the wooden stretcher. So this one had 4 folds, so they actually took away 6 inches from the top, 6 inches from the bottom of the original canvas. And when it came to us, then we opened up all the folds so that we could show at least what was remaining side to side, top to bottom. So this is another very common problem that one will see in older works of art, where the original canvas the original painted canvas has been used for stretching purposes. This is another example of a problem created not only because of the humidity but also because of the materials used by the artist. In this case, the canvas is being painted, and then the impasto is made of a material it's a mixture of encaustic and wax and things which is not yet dried over a period of many years. And when the canvas expands and then it contracts, parts of this impasto fall off because it's not going to expand, it's not going to contract, so it just simply falls off because of the movement of the canvas. And in this case, what we have done as to restore it is again, we have consolidated whatever is left, and then we put in our fillers and we create the same kind of an effect, and then the final touch-up is done so that one doesn't know where the loss was. But this is again another very common example of what you will see whenever there are thick impasto strokes done on a painting, that pieces have just simply fallen off. Water damages, particularly if the painting is under an air conditioner, which is leaking, the water just drips, and when it drips, it takes away with it the ground layer, and the ground layer has paint on it. So the entire area will lose the paint, it just flows with the water. So one has to be very careful about not placing your artworks under the air conditioner. This was the restore part of it. Tears again are very common. If there are if your house is being painted and you put your artwork just simply on the floor, or it's it can fall, it can catch the edge of your table. So one has to be very particular again, otherwise you end up tearing your canvas. In this we repaired it thread by thread from the reverse and put in the fillers, and only the filler is touched up. Accidents do happen, and this will affect even an old work, or whether, it doesn't matter whether the old artwork is old or new, but the smoke can darken the painted layer. In this case, this painting is made by an Indian artist again who uses a lot of wax, and there was a fire in this house as well, and a lot of the wax, it melted and fell off. In this case, again we consolidated it, then put in the fillers, and then just painted over the areas of the filler. Okay, just skipping some slides. We get a lot of fungus in India. Fungus spores are present in the atmosphere all the time, and they just wait for a dark, damp, humid condition to grow. So if the paintings are in your stores for a very, very long period of time, or if there is improper ventilation, the fungus spores will grow, particularly if the colors used by the artists are darker. So blacks, blues, browns, they tend to get a lot of fungus. Fungus can also eat the reverse, and it can attack the canvases. So one again has to be very, very particular about how much ventilation you're giving your painting, and not storing them in dark rooms. In this case, the canvas is again eaten up from the reverse, and we have to rebuild the canvas, work on the artwork from the reverse, then work on it from the front, and then sort this one out. Again, you see fungus would grow normally, you see the color, it grows like fuzz spots. So there's black, brown, there's green, yellow and white. So if you observe any of these little pieces like cotton fluffs growing on your painting, that means your artwork has a fungal attack, so one has to tackle that correctly. It can even go within layers of the paper. Again, you see over here. The fungus spores will also grow when, this is again an accident. Again, there was a water leaking from the air conditioner. The wall was wet, and that sort of the water got transferred onto the artwork, and because of that, the fungus started growing. So again, one has to be very, very careful about how and where you're placing your artworks. Chemical oxidation is another very common problem. We normally find this in miniatures wherever there is the white pigment used, which reacts with the hydrogen sulfide of the atmosphere, and it becomes this black lead sulfide. It is a reversible reaction, so one should not get worried if you see this kind of a blacky tarnishing effect on your artworks, it can always be sorted out. You see this happening in this case as well. Paperworks tend to pick up a lot of acidity from the atmosphere. So this is an example of how yellow it can get because of the acidity, and this in addition also has water stains. A lot of times, because of improper storage or because of the age of the artwork, we do find them falling apart and in pieces, so one should keep an eye on these. And if they're stored well, it would not reach this condition, but even if they do, then it can be sorted out, and then once it is sorted out, then it must be kept in acid-free mounts to prevent any further issues. A lot of times we find that oil paintings made on paper or acrylics on paper, they've just been stuck simply onto cardboard. Now, the paperworks, if you see the framing of olden times, olden times, like even in the 1960s, 70s, and it's only now that framing has become a little more advanced. But a lot of times the paper was just stuck onto the cardboard, or it was just placed on this board, which is made up of a lot of rubbish. Because of that, the paperwork would then pull up all the rubbish acids from this and become weak, yellow, and brittle. This can also now be sort of reversed. We can remove the acidity from the artwork and then put it on acid-free mounts to make sure that this problem doesn't reoccur. Ceramics can break. This is just human negligence. This is just a list of basic do's and don'ts that one can follow at home. To protect your artwork, to look at your artwork, observe it very keenly all the time. We make sure that our paintings are stretched on tapered stretchers, not just on wooden pieces put together, so that the painting touches the edge of the stretcher only at a particular point and not throughout. We don't display the painting where there is direct sunlight, we don't hang paintings on damp walls, we don't store paintings in dark unventilated rooms, we don't hang paintings under the air conditioners for any kind of possible water damage due to leaks. Also not directly in front of the air conditioners because that air has a lot of moisture in it. We don't keep the paintings hanging on the wall with the house being painted, don't rest the paintings against furniture that is sharp. We do not roll our paintings for transportation, particularly if the strokes are thick, because that will lead to a lot of cracking of all the strokes. I've noticed in a lot of cases, even when the paintings are being transported from a home to a museum, or if this is going for exhibition abroad, sometimes the packers just pack the painting directly with the bubble wrap on the face of the painting. It can get stuck, particularly if it's an acrylic work, so we always put an isolating layer between the face of the painting and the bubble sheet. We do not advise taking off labels directly on the reverse of the painting because the gum can contract that particular area of a canvas. Do not write in felt pen behind your paintings because the ink of the felt pen comes to the front of the canvas. We are particular about the hanging of the artworks. For heavier artworks, it's better to hang them on 2 pegs, maybe with a support so that they don't fall and we don't have any accidents. If you notice any small fluffy spots, please do get your artwork treated because it could be fungus. For paper paintings, yes, of course, again, as I said, acid-free boards should be used. There must be a separator between the painting and the glass, otherwise the glass can get stuck onto your paperwork and then cause further damage. I guess, yeah, those are the basic do's and don'ts. And of course, the main thing is if we can maintain a temperature that doesn't fluctuate. Like even in India, it's difficult when you are chilling your room to 16 degrees and when you switch the air conditioner off, it becomes 35 or 40. So So the paintings, they react to the fluctuation of the temperature, even if you keep it at 28 to 30, but constantly it's fine. But it just reacts to the fluctuations. The paintings definitely react to the humidity being very high, so it's advisable to get a dehumidifier and try and maintain the humidity levels to about 50%, 50 to 55%. That takes care of a lot of problems. The lighting should be indirect. So if a very simple run through about how to take care of your artworks at home. So if there are any questions. That the walls are not wet. Don't put them under the direct air conditioning vent because that has a lot of moisture. Just keep checking them periodically. Take them off the wall every few weeks. Just make sure, because sometimes the fungus will grow from the reverse and you don't get to see it until it's come all the way in front. And if you, it's really advisable if you can get a dehumidifier. So ours, the ones at our house and in the studio, they run for 12 hours. Like we start them in the morning at 8 and we switch them off at night at 8. So for 12 hours, the dehumidifiers work. In the monsoons, we empty it out twice because there's so much water. In Bombay, I advise all the clients, they use them throughout the year. And of course, for the dehumidifier, you have to call those people in. They will suggest whether you need one in your room or two, depending on the size. So these are things that will at least take care of 50% of your problems. You know, just to make sure that
spots of fungus occur on the painting. Do you suggest that we should dust them off, or there is a special treatment?
Well, there is a special treatment that we do because fungus actually can spread immediately. You know, it's like if you've seen when kids go to school and they haven't eaten their sandwiches, and if you leave them in their tiffins overnight, the next morning you'll see this green thing growing. It's the same thing. So it is best to get it treated once at least, and to make sure it doesn't spread further within the artwork, and it should not spread from one painting to the next. But if you are unable to get hold of a professional restorer in your area, then there's a very simple homemade treatment, but in the sense that you must be a bit careful. It's not bread because bread attracts fungus, so I don't know why people clean their paintings with bread. Basically, if you can place the reverse of your canvas or the reverse of your artwork very carefully in a shady area at about a 10 o'clock sun for about a half an hour, 40 minutes for 2-3 days, it will temporarily take care of the problem. Yeah, but you just have to keep an eye on it because you don't want, in the Middle East, you don't want that hot sun shrinking your artwork completely. So these are things that have to be done in a bit of a controlled manner.
Okay, which types of artwork do you restore? Only paintings or also porcelain, bronzes?
No, basically, see, we specialize in the restoration of canvases. We do mainly oils on canvas. We do some acrylics on canvas. We do paperwork. But for ceramics, and it's very once in a while that you'll get, we did get one Ming vase, which is about 4 feet high, and the air conditioner guys had come to my friend's house, and they were pulling out the air conditioner for servicing, and it fell bang on it. So this vase came to us in 3 suitcases. So we managed to do this jigsaw puzzle, fit it together, and then wherever the pieces were joining in, we did fillers, and we sort of did a little touch up, so it looked okay, but it's not like an everyday thing.
So you do condition reports?
Yes, we do condition reports. Yeah, for all the works that come to the studio, we first make a condition report, we make the estimate, mail it to them, and after the work is done, we also give them another report telling them exactly what we've done.